So here we go. This is the drivetrain, and out of that 88 hatch, I used this aluminum brightener and sprayed it on there, and it degreased it and brightened it up quite a bit. I probably could have done better right here, but it's got the intake pretty clean. And I power washed it and a bunch of paint chips, so I might end up painting it. But I'm gonna pick it up and I'm gonna put those motor mounts on it. Not today, because I'm overheated today. Spent too much time out here and mowing the grass and shit. So, but tomorrow morning I'm gonna probably pick it up and put it in this car. But the problem is at first, when I was taking the motor out, I broke this right here. It's plugged right there, but I'm thinking I'll just cut it here and take it over to the vise and pinch it and fold it and maybe even solder it a little bit. But it did clean up nice. The water pump is bright. It was oily, and this brightened up quite a bit. I'm not sure how much of this stuff I'm gonna keep on it, but that stuff worked pretty good. So then I got this motor here today. I went and got it this morning, and I don't really know nothing about it, but it's from a 94. That's an AODE, and that's going to be going into that car. So, all right, so I figured out the thread size on this smog pump delete. This was the pipe that goes on there, right? It goes to the smog pump. And so these threads are not the size of a spark plug. See, I kind of marred this up, but it did help me get the threads cleaned out a little bit. This is 5/8 11, and what I done was I took a 5/8 bolt and cut it down, and I haven't actually tried to put it in yet, but that thread's in there. And this one's gonna thread in here. I just didn't want to wait to order the ones that they have on Summit that are actually plug inserts that have the threads that you could actually put a bolt in it. It's like a hollow insert that you could actually thread a bolt in and bolt something here if you wanted to. But I'm not going to do that because I want to get this engine in today, and I didn't want to wait. So I went to K&K and got some bolts and threaded them, and cut them down, and this is working just fine. So there you have it. That's how you delete your smog pump pipes on the back of the head. Here's where I'm at today. I got this K-member in because I spent all day yesterday, well, half the day yesterday, trying to put an engine in, and I think this was a 3.3 K-member that was in this car. So I haven't checked the VIN number yet, but since it wouldn't fit, I'm thinking it was the 3.3 after looking it up. That had a V6 in it, or a straight 6 or something like that. Anyway, the motor mounts did not line up, and so I put this in, and I'm gonna try it again with this Team Z K-member and see what happens. So this is the K-member that was in it, and I mean, it doesn't look like it's too narrow, but it seems like it's too narrow. So I'm just going to assume that's what it was. The oil pan was hitting right there on everything, and that motor mount was in, and the motor's twisted, and the other motor mount bolt was way up here. So we'll try it one more time. All right, Justin had this fan laying around, brought it over, and I'm trying to make it fit. So it needed to be gouged out there and there, and right there, in order for this to fit. Now I gotta figure out how I'm gonna make it a solid fit, because it wants to fall down right there. So I need to try to figure out maybe how to incorporate these bolt holes in each corner here. This one looks like it's going to be pretty straightforward, but I might have to make some kind of something there to help mount it. And this one I could probably use spacers and a long screw. So that's what I'm working on today, because I cut this fan off just because it was easier. It's right there, it was broke anyway. But with this K member, I think the motor drops down a little bit, and the fan didn't fit in the shroud anymore. So now I'm going to go to an electric fan just because it's the easiest thing to do if I want to keep this K member. So conveniently, these screw in on the end of these posts here, and I know I didn't do a very good job, but these needed to clear here a little bit, and it doesn't have to be perfect or nothing. So these will hold it from moving around too much. Actually, the radiator is going to be right here. It actually would have kept this from going up and down, but not left and right. These will keep it kind of secure. And then I was thinking right here I could drill a hole into the back of this instead of on the top where it'd be visible, and then put one bolt there, and I think this will work. Okay, you can't see it, but inside here there's a 3-inch pipe that's being used as a spacer. There it is. So that's solid now. Try to test fit it and see how it goes. I'm gonna have to figure out how to get these wires to work. Anyway, now we're gonna try to take it and slide it down in those stock clips and bolt it to the stock holes. There's a minor oversight on my part. I think I can just cut that out. Just cut this notch out and put that bolt right in the notch. Man, that's close. Focus. Yeah, that's close. Makes me wish I would have grinded a little more off of that stub. There we go. Yeah. Boy, that's close. Might be all right though. I had to change the throttle cable because this one was for the 4-cylinder engine, and it was about 6 inches shorter. I already put this one in, at least out here on the firewall anyway. See, that's a lot longer. It goes like that. This one's a lot shorter. So anyway, what I wanted to show you is that this clips on right here like that, and I had to unbolt this from the firewall, pull it down, take a putty knife and pop that out, and that was the only way to, I mean, you can't get up in there, it's almost impossible. And then this was up against the firewall, and that's probably not going back in because that was kind of a pain in the butt. It didn't want to clear this, and you can't get your hands up in there, and I had to just jiggle it until it fell out because it goes in like this. So it's kind of a pain in the butt to get your hand up in there and try to get that off. So I don't know why it's even there. Doesn't look like it's used for anything really. So I'm probably not gonna put it back. Anyway, so now I gotta crawl under there and get this hooked into the cable and then bolt it to the firewall, and that's installed. I zip tied this full throttle so that the cable will be longer. See how the spring's loaded now? And that'll keep me from having to pull on that spring, and then every time I lose grip it jumps out. So that'll help when I'm reaching up in there trying to connect it to the gas pedal. It's really hard to record it, so basically I gotta reach up in here. It bolts right there, so I gotta reach all the way up in that hole, and you can see the daylight coming through a hole there, but on the other side of that, on that side in that hole, that's where the throttle cable goes, and I gotta reach up in there and hook it up. It's gonna be hard. Okay, so that wasn't as hard as I thought it was gonna be. So this is sticking out through the firewall, right? And this needs to be on this side. So I just took this up and I watched real close and did that, and then I got it on there, and then I pried it up against the firewall and it snapped in. So it's not that difficult, actually. And then you just bolt it back, but make sure it snaps in there good, otherwise it'll come back out. I had to do it twice because when I went to bolt it up, it fell out. So I had to make sure that there is snapped in good. All right, now I got these connected to this bracket. And I just gotta bracket under here now and bolt it right there, and then connect it to the linkage. All right, I got all the wires here hooked up. I go into the firewall for the gauges and stuff, and all that hooked up to the solenoid and everything, and it does turn over. I had to find the neutral safety wires inside that I cut when I took the other engine out, and it turns over, so that's good. It's making progress. This wire here is coming through the firewall where the ECU wires go, and it's going to run the fan, so I have to hook that up. But I noticed that when I was hooking up when I was turning it over, I got some oil. It's because I need to hook up the power steering or plug it or delete it or something. So I got to attack that. And I have to still get the fuel tank in and get the fuel lines ran, so it's not going to run anyway. But that's the progress report. I know this EGR, I guess it stays open if it doesn't have vacuum, and this vacuum, I found that in the other car, and it goes to this as the solenoid that runs it, but it's not getting vacuum anyway. I'd have to hook it up to that bank over there and then run vacuum to that so I could get vacuum to it. And the only reason I could think of to fix this is because it's probably going to affect it either at idle or at cruise, or when I'm punching it or something. That thing needs to open and close. So I probably do have to get vacuum to this switch to get that thing to open and close. Even if it's not like actually recirculating nothing, it needs to open and close. And this electrical piece or plug here needs to tell the computer where it's at, opened and closed, for the computer to run right, I guess. And I don't know everything about it, but that's what I know about it, so I have to fix that. So for this build, I decided not to get a cam or do the heads or nothing, because this convertible doesn't need to be that fast. It's just going to be for cruising around and stuff. But I did want to put a V8 in it, so that's what I did. And all that other dreaming that I was doing in the last video will probably go in that 4i with that engine and transmission. I'll be tearing that one down and maybe doing the cam and stuff in that, because I want that 4i to be fast, or faster anyway. And then I might wind up doing a turbo on it, on the 4i. But this one, for now, I'm just going to throw this drivetrain in it, get it running, put a rear end in it. I got a couple to choose from, and I'm not sure which one I'm going to do. But I might do the one that's underneath this 4i right now. Well, there's two under there, but I might do that one instead of the one that's in that car, because it's drum. And I got two rear ends that are not drum, so I'm gonna pick one of those. The one that came in this black car, that one's sitting underneath the 4i, and I think I'm gonna put that one in. We'll see. Hooked up these transmission lines, and I thought about running different ones because these was leaking a little bit here, and I might end up if they leak still, because I tightened them, if they leak still, I might have to get some kind of vinyl washer for right there. So that's hooked up. I got all the wiring done, and there was some confusion on the neutral safety switch. I got the wrong wires hooked up, and evidently if you hook the wrong two up, because there's some for the reverse lights and some for the neutral safety. Well, if you touch the two wires, because it's not hooked up yet, if you touch the wrong two wires together, then when you just put it in accessory mode, it starts to turn over. Well, I got that figured out and got the right ones jumpered, and now it turns over. And I got the power steering lines hooked up, so when I start it, oil won't go everywhere. I have to put transmission fluid in it, because I'd lost a lot when I was putting the engine in. It just all dumped right out the back, and might change the oil. So the next thing I want to do, though, I'm not going to do that yet. The next thing I want to do, though, is I'm going to jack up this rear end, and I'm going to remove that 4-cylinder rear end, and this one is the one that came in the car, and it's a 273 gear. I'd like to put that in. I'm not sure what the gear is in on that one, but that's the one that came on the race car, and I'm thinking I'll put that one in, but it looks like it's going to need, I don't know, some thought put into it. This one's got the calipers and everything all set up, but the problem is that one, I took that piece off right there, and it messed with the crush washer, and I'm not entirely certain, but I think I have to take the whole thing apart to put a new crush washer in it. I have to look that up and see, but it'd be nice to put this one in because this one's more complete. I would really like to put that one in, so tonight I might look up and see what all's involved with replacing the crush washer, and I might wind up doing that. I got decisions to make. And that fuel tank has a $300 fuel pump in it that's for massive fuel flow, and so I don't really want to mess with that. That one was in the convertible when I had the big engine in it, so I'll be taking the gas tank out of that one and using that pump, and then there's some lines that run that all the way to the engine bay, and then hopefully I'll be able to reuse those. So that's where I'm at, and we'll see what I get done tomorrow. All right, I pulled these out and looked at them. And after a bunch of procrastination and organizing tools and thinking and everything and what I should do, I really wanted this rear end. It's a 273 gear, so it's going to get a really good highway mile an hour or RPM on the highway. And so what I winded up doing is, this one came out of the race car, and it had that on it which matches the drive shaft, and so I just switched them. I mean, I know you're not supposed to do it and crush washer and all that, but I looked up some things and I kind of got the hint on a couple videos that if I tighten that down just right, a little bit at a time until it felt like it had a little bit of resistance, then it might work. So, I mean, I never saw a video say it would work, but I decided to give it a shot, and if it starts to do something, then I guess I'll just have to take it apart and redo it. But I think I got it where it just started to touch the crush washer. It started to get some resistance, and I even used a little old style torque wrench to see that it was getting a little resistance. And I think I was at like 8 pounds or 5 pounds or somewhere in there. Anyway, I know this one bolts right in because it's been in the car before. And even though the brake lines look like shit, that's okay. I just redo those later if I want to also. So I'm gonna put this in. It's already got the brake calipers, and I know if I hook up the lines and everything, the brakes will work. It needs pads. And it'll be 5-lug. So I'll be able to get matching set of wheels instead of having 4-lug on the back and 5 on the front. And then this one's gonna go back under the car. So now I can finally get started at pulling the rear end at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And I was gonna just jerk that rear end out and slap one in, and I could have been done by now, but I wanted to think about it for a minute and look it up and figure it out, and I don't want to put drum brakes on it, so that's where we're at. This time when I got the rear end out, before I put the new one in, I went ahead and, I gotta paint that again, but went ahead and cut out the anti-roll bar. And let me tell you what, grinding it wasn't easy, and that thing saved my life. It made it a whole lot easier. Otherwise I would have been winding up cutting into it a lot more than I done. This one is dented because I hit it with a chisel trying to get it, and then I said, well, you know what, I got that air hammer my dad gave me, I'm gonna try that, and that thing just like, it just rips right through metal. And it chiseled through that weld that was still there. It's a pretty powerful little chisel. So I can straighten those out and reuse that somewhere. So to put this back in, I pulled down on this by hand and set that spring in. And then I used this transmission jack. I had to take this arm off and drop it down, get the spring in, kind of set it up, and set it on this jack. And then I jacked the jack up until the hole lined up, because I couldn't pull down on the rear end because the spring on this side was fighting me, so I couldn't pull down far enough. And then so once I took that arm loose, I put the spring on, and then it was fighting me, so I just put the jack on there and jacked it up, and then just kind of jiggled it around until it lined up and slapped the bolt in. I put these two on first, and then these two, and then what I just said. So it's a pretty easy installation. Well, I got the tires on, and something is very, very wrong. It's rubbing right here, and over there it's really wide, and it's all stock components. I measured everything. Everything's straight, or everything's the same length. This one's different though. This one's a different arm. It's got these holes here, and this one doesn't have the holes. So, but they seem to measure the same length. These ones measure the same length. The car doesn't look like it's bent anywhere. So I'm not understanding what's going on here, but it looks like I'm gonna have to get adjustable. Well, I got some, I just didn't want to put them on because it's a pain in the butt to measure everything. I thought, well, if I do stock, it'll be square and I won't have to worry about it. Now I gotta do it over again. We ain't slumming it with no stock shit. Bert the Vert said, no, I will not have it. So I put these ones that came with the Stallion in, and they worked out pretty good. Had to get a custom bolt for this, because I don't know what happened to the ones that was on it, but now got that much room there and that much room there. Looks a little wider on that side, but it's straighter now. It's not rubbing. Look at the marks that it made from the rubber that was on Bert from the burnouts I've done. So got something accomplished. Got the rear end in and the drive shaft in. I can't move around. Yeah, this looks closer over there. Over here now. And further over there now. I'll have to measure it. Anyway, the rear end seems to be in. I need longer shock bolts, because see that right there? Right there, that's a spacer. That bolt's there, and it makes it so that the shock bolt is longer, and that bracket is too narrow to fit the shock. See, this fits like this, and that bolt is an inch too short now. So I'm gonna have to take a trip to K&K later. That's a little spooky because if you get it a little too far sideways, there's a lot of leverage and it could flip the tractor over. Guess I better put the brake on. Note to self, the one with the hard elbow goes on the filter, and the one without, that's a pain in the butt, goes on the fuel line. And then after the filter is a rubber hose that goes to that, which mine had a plastic line on the other. On the Vert, it's a plastic line, so at least I know that. All right. Okay, we got a wire going to the sending unit, a wire going to the fuel pump. I'm probably gonna need this, so I don't know what I did with mine. And then a vacuum line going here. Okay, I thought originally that this fuel line was plastic all the way through, but it's metal there. And then it goes here and it takes a hard right there and goes to this side here and then goes to the passenger side of the motor. And these lines do the opposite and bend over across the shaft and go that way. So I might just have to bend these the right direction. Pulled the shifter out of this car, put it in this car. Used all the stock everything. I thought about putting my B&M shifter in. It was for an AOD, but the parts weren't matching up and I didn't want to mess with it anymore. So we're just gonna do the stock shifter. It's just easier. And I got the fuel lines in. This right here, I made a recording of this fitting, but the recording didn't take. That's a stock line, and then I used a bubble flare for brake lines to make it flare, and I was able to use that with the nylon line, and that worked out really well. I had to heat it up a little more than I did for the other fittings because it was just slightly bigger, but it's gonna seal. And then I got the filter in its normal location, and I put rubber hose anywhere where it's gonna contact and try to keep it from chafing. Since it's vinyl, it shouldn't be chafing. And got rubber lines here, and then I had some extra AN braided line, so I used that around the exhaust, because those are the headers, right? So way down here, it should be good. And I zip tied it tight, so they're nice and protected. Doing it with the vinyl is a little hard, but I don't know. I don't even know. It may be a little cheaper, but at least you get to use the stock fittings and you don't have to worry about matching stuff or with the AN stuff.